Hi everyone, Catherine here from Ink Finger Cat, back with a Festive Friday video for you. I know I have done so many Christmas cards already this month, but you know, the Festive Friday continues, and this is not one of Martin's challenge ones. This was just me deciding I wanted to play with the painted Christmas stamps and do some kind of techniques inspired by Mr. Holtz himself. So back in September, as part of Simon Says Stamptember, Tim Holtz did a class that's over on YouTube, free for everyone to follow along. He was using the stamps that he, were part of the Stamptember release, that came with like a little kit box, including some watercolour pencils. Now, I don't have his watercolour pencils. I do have some watercolour pencils, but they're definitely not the kind of stuff that he's got. Mine are more traditional watercolour pencils. So instead I decided to do a similar technique using my stamps and just normal distress inks to ink up my stamp, give it a spritz with water. Sometimes I'd ink it up with a couple of colours at the same time and then stamp it twice so you get first and second generation ink. Some of it was very watery, some of it was very loose, shall we say. And I did that for covering probably the equivalent of an A4 sheet. It was probably A6. No, A5 is half of A4, isn't it? That's how it works. So I covered probably the equivalent of an A4 sheet in those stamped images, and then I let it go to one side. So for the backgrounds, I took the same greens. I did also add in some tumbled glass, which you'll see in a minute. I just wanted it to be slightly bluer, but it didn't really work. I did quite a lot of just ink direct to the paper, which caught some of the texture because it was a watercolour cardstock. Give it a good old blast with water and moved it around with my fingertips because, inky fingered cat and all that. Gave it a dry off and then went in with a second set of ink just to try and make sure that I'd got as much captured of those same colours. There you go, this is me coming in with tumbled glass. As I say, once I wet that, can't really tell that I've added the blue to it, but there you go. So my backgrounds, I decided that because I really liked the colours, but it looks a hot mess, it needed something else. So I took my Fern embossing folder, 3D embossing folder, inked up one side of it and ran that through my Spellbinders Platinum 6. I think the great thing about using watercolour paper is it just gives it some really fun, interesting texture. But it does mean you don't get kind of distinct images. And I think this worked perfectly and almost turned the ferns into pine tree fronds or something. I think it worked well anyway. So I do quite often use this fern one for Christmas as well, not just for sort of like summery kind of vibes, or even it would look great autumny vibes if it was sort of like oranges and browns in there. But yeah, I thought it worked well. And to be honest, you're not going to see that much of it at the very end because I'm going to absolutely cover it with this foliage. So these have all dried now, these stamped images, and I'm cutting them apart so I can start die cutting them. I don't quite know what's happened, but I have lost one of my dies from this set. I don't know where it's gone. I have since looked in the box of dies to see if it had like fallen out the bottom, but it hasn't. It's probably just gone into another packet somewhere along the lines by accident. So it'll turn up, I'm sure. To be honest, I'm not getting rid of this stamp set and this die set anytime soon because I love it. I just think it's a great stamp set. And it looks quite similar to that Simon Says stamp one. Just saying, quite similar. So die cutting these does take a little while. As you can see, I have got quite a beveled, wonky plate there, my cutting plate. I have now actually changed my top plate and it is now a new top plate, and I'm going to be really, really good and only use the cutting plate at the bottom until it's totally and utterly worn, so that I can try and preserve the plates a little bit longer because, yeah, it's now cutting in and creating texture when I was doing it. So this was my first day of remembering to change over the plate and have one as a cutting plate and one as a top plate. So it does take me a while to go through and cut all of these. I have to say that little tray from Hey Little Magpie, really helpful. I've got a set of 3 of them and really helpful for just assembling all your bits and pieces and keeping them safe. Do you need it? No. Is it helpful? Yes. Do I love them? Yep. It just allows me to pop them all into one place, keep them safe whilst I do the die cutting. Now, this kind of making is what Tim refers to as the no, that's not a word, compartmental crafting. I think that's how he says it, compartmental, compartments. Doing in stages is what I'll describe it as. So you'll see I did all my stamping in one go. I didn't know how many cards I was going to make out of this sort of stuff. I just did all of my stamping in one go. Then I did make my backgrounds because I wanted them to dry and stuff. So I stopped working with the stamped stuff because I needed them to dry. I worked on my backgrounds, put them to one side. Now I'm doing all of my die cutting, and because I've lost a die, some fussy cutting too, I'm doing all of that. And now I will start to do some assembly work. So at this point, I'm like, oh, okay. So I just took these 2 backgrounds. I wasn't sure if I got too much or not enough foliage for 2 cards. Probably I've gone a bit over OTT because, you know, this is me. I do tend to do OTT. So I probably do put more on this than most people would do. I don't mind, that's fine. But I'm literally just taking the pieces out and putting the same pieces on each of the backgrounds, starting to assemble my clusters how I think I might like them to look. I'm not really thinking about too much apart from I want a balance of the 2 different kind of coloured greens, and then I'm going to pop my reds in as little pops of colour. Did I mention what colours I'd used? Shabby Shutter, Evergreen Bough and Candied Apple. The reason I'm not sure if I've remembered to tell you that before now is because this is the 3rd time of trying to record this voiceover. I've been interrupted and lost my thread several times, so now I can't remember which one's on this edit. You'll see there I did end up stamping another couple on scraps of the berries, and it's because I've decided I want to put some on the inside, some foliage on the inside of the card, so I just pulled some aside, but I wanted the red berries. Now I wanted something to kind of ground my foliage clusters, so I chose that gold angel hair kind of paper. I've got loads of it and I refound it a few months ago and I'm now trying to use some of it. I probably should have chosen a bigger piece because you can't see very much of it in the end card, so it doesn't really do the job of grounding it, but you know what, it's still a little pop of gold coming out from the outside. So as I'm gluing down, because the angel hair paper is kind of like a plastic thing, it doesn't always adhere quickly. So I am popping the acrylic block on top of some of the elements where I want it to just stay in place because it was sort of starting to lift. And then once I've done one, I'm then going to basically try and copy that for the second one. I do end up then turning one of the panels upside down. So it does make a different card and it does look slightly different because the foliage does look different because one of them's upside down. I mean, they're never going to be unique. They've got different saturations of ink. They've got different kind of first and second generations, different colours on the stamped images, etc. So they're never going to look the same anyway. So I want to wrap that red ribbon around because I wanted some kind of like softer texture. Actually, it becomes quite a stark texture rather than softer, but I wanted something different on there. So I've chosen this red polka dot ribbon that I've just got a little bit of left. And I'm just going to wrap that around the middle. Snip off the bits I don't need. Do the same on the other card as well. But I did just trim it down on all 4 sides to make sure that it was the right size so that when I put it on the red card blanks I'm going to make in a minute, it's going to have a nice border all the way around. But I'm going to carry on working on the topper. So the topper I decided I was originally going to use one of the labels from that Painted Christmas stamp and die set. I was going to use the same label. But I decided I wanted a circle instead. I didn't want anything that covered too much of the middle. To be honest, even this seems a little big, Probably could have gone for the next size down if I'm perfectly honest, but there you go. So I've just used a stitched circle die. I'm going to add those on. I will add those on with adhesive foam, but first I need to go and choose my sentiment. And I've gone to my packs, my little pouches I've already done. I toyed with the idea of those die cut words and decided not to go with those. So instead I end up with some waffle flower waffle flower sentiments. The Sending Good Cheer one, I just thought it fit nicely on the circle. I think I could have gone for the slightly smaller size. Really handy having my sentiments already done though, makes it easy. Now normally when I see myself doing this, I've added glue to the bottom of the adhesive dots. I normally say it's not because it won't stick, it's just to give me wiggle room. No, this was because there was so much texture going on that card. Oh yeah, good job I spotted that. The sentiment had gone wonky. There was so much texture on this card, I really did want to make sure that the sentiment stuck well. So I did put a bit of glue on the bottom of the adhesive. So normally they'll stick fine, but there was so much going on, I just didn't trust it, if you know what I mean. So now I'm going to make my card blanks. So the way I normally make card blanks is to fold something in half and then give it a cut at the 10.5 centimetre point, which makes a lovely top folding card. For some reason I got my score board out to do this. And managed to score it slightly wonky, so I did have to cut a little bit off either side just to make sure that it was straight, but it worked fine. And then a good dose of the glue to make sure that it sticks, especially because it's got that ribbon in there. I normally try and lift it up if I've put a ribbon, but it is quite a flat ribbon, so I think it's fine. But normally I'd like raise that panel up. But I think it looks really cute with the red border all the way around, especially with that pop of the red ribbon, and it brings in that central circle element. Of course, because it's a coloured card, I am using my white in order to just put a panel on the inside, and then I'm going to take those bits of extra foliage that were left over of the leaves, and then those berries that I do just end up fussy cutting a few of those out just to add those berries in there too. And then that's pretty much my cards done. Obviously fussy cutting takes a little bit of time here, so I'm probably finishing my voiceover a little bit early, but yeah, I always like to add, if I can, something to the inside that kind of carries it through, but it's usually an afterthought, if I'm honest. I don't normally think about it at the beginning. I know when I watch Amy from Prairie Paper and Ink, she normally thinks about it as she's going along and does her inserts as she's going along rather than as an afterthought. But there you go. There's my 2 cards, sort of inspired by the Tim Holtz techniques that he shared in that class. And I really enjoy them. I think they're really fun cards. Hope you've enjoyed this. Please do subscribe to see future videos. Leave me a comment below to say if you enjoyed it or not. Until next time, bye-bye.